it's going to sound like you. Over years, you'll develop your own writing styles and stuff like that. So that's already covered. But this is how you can cover like the sound design and sound selection aspect of branding yourself. Hey everyone, Andrew Southworth, TenorStudios.com, here to teach you how to make better music and help you achieve your musical goals. So in this video I want to talk about branding, but not necessarily in the marketing perspective of branding, more in the music perspective of branding. Because at the end of the day, you have a certain sound that sounds like you, and hopefully no one else, or at least that's what you want to have. And the idea with branding in terms of marketing is that you want people to see maybe your logo or hear your sound or see your product, whatever it may be, and associate that with you and your kind of core values or what makes your brand. And the same goes for music. And for guitarists and drummers and vocalists, they already understand this. You know, if you're a vocalist, you sound like you. That's just kind of default genetics and practice. If you're a drummer, you have a drum kit. And over the years, it might change a little bit, but it's kind of growing over time with you and your skills as a drummer. And if you're a guitarist, you acquire gear and it's very expensive, and it takes you create a sound, and you might get the perfect settings on your amp or the perfect settings in your amp modeler, and you might use a certain guitar because you like the sound of it, and your sound stays the same from song to song. Over years it might change, but it's kind of more of an evolution. And for a lot of people in the EDM world, they don't get this perspective. The guitarist doesn't have the same guitar and the same amp. The bassist doesn't have the same settings and same amp. The drum isn't using the same drum set, and the vocalist isn't necessarily the same because you don't have a guitarist, bassist, drummer, and vocalist, or at least not the same vocalist for every song because it's not a band. You're an EDM producer or you're a hip hop producer or whatever. So it's a little harder to understand that you need to sound like you. And there's a couple ways that you should think about this. If you're thinking about your synths and your subs like guitarists and bassists, then you want to have kind of a repertoire of sounds. Just like a guitarist might have a certain preset in his amp modeler or whatever for his rhythm guitars and his lead guitars and his clean guitars, you need to start thinking about creating a catalog of your ideal synth sounds and your ideal lead sounds and your ideal sub or bass sounds. And just like you think when your drums should sound like a drummer who would have this kind of the same set from song to song, you should start creating a library of drum sets that sound like what you want to sound like. Because the effect that this will give is that you release a song and people like it. And if you don't pay attention to this branding stuff, your next song might be so completely different. Like the drums are completely different, the synths are completely different, the vocalist is different, that people might hate it, because it doesn't sound remotely the same. It's almost like a different artist did it. And if you ask any big like EDM producer or whatever producer, they often say that they might use the same kick drum like in almost every song, or they might use the same preset and then just tweak the knobs a little bit from song to song. And over years their style changes, but from release to release you don't want the changes to be like blah. And even in the context of using all the same sounds, the songs can still sound very different, but there'll be something in there that sounds inherently like you because you designed it that way. So just a quick side note before I continue the video, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe because I upload videos every single Tuesday and Friday, and ring that bell so you can stay notified. A very small portion of you actually have that bell rung, and I have people ask me, where have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. And I upload videos every single Tuesday and Friday, so subscribe and ring that bell, and I promise you I'll keep delivering awesome content. Back to the video. So I know what you're thinking. This sounds kind of hard to do, to track everything in your folders and your preset folders and whatever, and it's kind of annoying. But most major DAWs actually have a way to just handle this built into them. And I'll show you Ableton Live here, which has a fantastic way of dealing with this in their collections method. And so basically up here in the collections, you can call these whatever you want. You just do Command R and you can rename it. And if you want to edit these and see how many you get, you can turn them on and off. But what I did is I have things broken down by like synths I use all the time, samplers I use all the time, mixing plugins. By the way, this is a new computer. My iMac died, so this is very empty. It's usually much more full. But mixing, mastering, and then this is going to be vocals or something. But then I have this ARS brand, and these are the sounds that make up me. In a way, again, this list is much more fleshed out in my old iMac. Unfortunately, I'm resaving things, but this makes up me, and it changes over time, and I do introduce new sounds. I don't always use these, but I wrote a song and I wanted to start actually planning for an album. So what I did is when I started planning for the album, I spent a lot of time crafting sounds for the first song. And then I found a piano that I loved, and I made a drum kit that I loved, and I saved them as these presets. And if you don't know how to do that, basically what you do, I'll just grab a random instrument. Let's get a drum rack, let's get an EQ and a compressor. You can just click all of them, highlight them, and Command G, and you got yourself an instrument rack. Then you just hit the save button here, and it'll make it for you. Test rack. And then you can just grab it and drop it into your brand folder, and it'll be there. So that's what I did for these. And now when I want to use the drums that define kind of the sound of the percussion, you know, the drums in this album, I just click this when I'm starting my song. And then let's say I want to use piano in this song. Okay, I'm going to use that piano because it sounds like me, or at least I'm telling the world that it sounds like me by using it. And of course, you know, I have a lead, and I've been tweaking this a lot in the songs, but this is one lead that I really loved, and so I just save that as a thing and double click, bam, and I get my lead. And I also do this for something like a sidechain trigger, and I explained this in another video, the invisible sidechain video. I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video so you can check it out. But basically, it's a way of triggering your sidechain without hearing your sidechain. So you don't need to like use your kick drum. You can have an invisible sidechain that triggers whenever you say that you want it to be triggered, and it'll trigger perfectly. Instead of having to trigger off of like this big fat kick drum sound, you're triggering off this nice little short click, and you can control it much better. So I have that saved because I use it all the time. And so anyways, the point is that if you want to sound like you and have people actually come back to you because they like the sound of you, this is one great way to do it. Of course, your songwriting methods and the way you use melodies and chord progressions, like that's all going to make up the sound of you, but that's stuff that you control anyways, unless you're using like pre-written loops and stuff like that. But if you're writing all your own stuff, you know, playing it on keyboard or mapping it out in the keyboard piano roll, it's going to sound like you. Over years, you'll develop your own writing styles and stuff like that. So that's already covered. But this is how you can cover like the sound design and sound selection aspect of branding yourself. So anyways, I hope you found that video helpful and interesting. I'm going to leave you a link to that invisible sidechain video right here because I think you'll really like it a lot. I use it in almost every song when I need to sidechain something because it makes things much better and much more manageable. Don't forget to subscribe. I upload videos every single Tuesday and Friday, and ring that bell please so you can stay notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.